Good morning, Kenya. Happy new month. Welcome to the Morning Momentum. This is a daily compendium of local and international news, human interest stories, current affairs, and the expert opinion. Use the hashtag The Morning Momentum at Younib Media TV at Alphonce Albakwekwe. Let's take a look at the top stories making the headlines on the Daily Nation this morning. The top story is a SHA scandal. Probe and the regulator has already suspended licenses of hospitals implicated in defrauding SHA. That story will be on page 4 and 5 of the Daily Nation this morning. The effectiveness of Kenya's most expensive healthcare system put in place to remedy the theft of taxpayers' money that plagued the defunct NHIF has been put to question after some 31 hospitals across 13 counties were found running elaborate deception schemes involving double billing, fake outpatient claims, forced and ghost admissions, as well as authorization code abuses. The revelation of the scam could just be the tip of the iceberg. We'll take a look at that. Also on page 6 this morning, short hawker succumbs to police bullet. And on page 2, blow to Joho's family as court quashes order on 5.8 billion grain facility at the port. On page 7, 485 arrested over deadly June 25th protests, say DCI. These are the suspects who have already been charged in court, with 37 under investigation for crimes including murder, terrorism, rape, gang rape, arson, robbery with violence, incitement, and possession of illegal firearms. You'll catch up with that on page 7. Let's get up close and candid with the nation on page 2. Joho family loses license for 5.8 billion shillings grain facility at the Mombasa port. Senator Okiya Omtata argued process was discriminatory since other companies were excluded. In its defense, the government said the move aimed to end monopoly held by Grain Bulk Handlers Limited. That story is beefed up for you on page 2. On page 3 this morning, Islamic law on inheritance overturned. The Apex Court says the welfare of the children is key, whatever the parents' marital status. The woman had wanted children born out wedlock stopped from inheriting father's estate. That story is on page 3 of the Nation this morning. On page 4, ghosts of NHIF fraud return to haunt 104 billion shillings health system. The ministry didn't disclose how much taxpayers' money has been lost, while names of suspended facilities had not been revealed by the time of going to press. Despite promises of a corruption-proof digital system, some 31 hospitals have been caught systematically defrauding the Social Health Authority through ghost patients and fake claims. The new order, theft is over, Ruto to SHA dictators. The scandal directly undermines President William Ruto's political narrative around SHA. Speaking at a funeral in March, the president accused the detractors of opposing the system because they wanted to continue looting. And I quote, "They do not want a technology system that works because they want to continue stealing from us. The stealing is over. Move on. We are not going to give free money as was being done under NHIF hospitals without accountability. We are only going to pay for services rendered." End of quote. That was the president back in March. You'll catch up with that story on page 4 and 5. On page 6 of the Nation this morning, dark day for family as a short mask vendor dies at the Kenyatta National Hospital. The king makes a passionate appeal to government and well-wishers to settle a 3.6 million shillings hospital bill. Boniface Kariuki, 22, breathed his last at 3:15 p.m. after being declared brain dead. And on page 7 this morning, DCI, we are pursuing those who orchestrated protests violence. Agency boss says June 25th demonstrations infiltrated by criminal elements. Now, at least 485 individuals were arrested in connection with the violence that rocked parts of the country on June 25th. Of these, 448 suspects have already been charged in court, while 37 remain under active investigation for serious crimes including murder, terrorism, rape, arson, robbery with violence, incitement, and possession of illegal firearms. The Directorate of Criminal Investigations boss Amin said that what began as peaceful demonstrations were infiltrated and hijacked by a well-coordinated network of criminal actors. You want to catch up with that on page 7. Staying on page 7 and with the matter of DCI, court orders Kanja and Amin to produce man abducted ahead of demos. A judge has ordered the IG of Police Douglas Kanja and DCI boss Mohammed Amin to produce in court online commentator and IT expert Ndiangui Kinyagia. Mr. Kinyagia has been missing since June 21st following an alleged police raid at his residence in Kinoo, Kiambu County over links to Gen Z protests. That story is beefed up for you on page 7. And let's move on and take a look at page 8. MPs slash fines, jail times for cryptocurrency farms. Now, ARA proposes inclusion of new criminal offense targeting virtual asset service providers and their directors. Investors lobby House team to reduce 10 million shillings fine in virtual asset service providers bill. That story is beefed up for you on page 8. 25,000 is the number of jobs the bill could create in the country within the next year, according to Molo MP Kimani Kuria. Let's take a look at page 10. Employment, Kupet and NAT trade barbs ahead of CBA negotiations. The unions are seeking better salaries and allowances as well as improved medical insurance schemes. Teachers' unions are set to begin negotiations with TSC over their 2025-2029 collective bargaining agreement. Now, also on page 10, border school unites communities in once volatile Laminyeusi zone. Now, straddling the border of Turkana and West Pokot counties, Sangak Primary School stands as a symbol of peace, unity, and hope in a former bandit zone. In the 2 months that it has been operational, the school has managed to bring together children from historically rival communities and is promising to rewrite the story of Lami Nyeusi, once a notorious battleground for bandits and highway robbers. 382 is the number of pupils currently enrolled at Sangak Primary School, which straddles Turkana and West Pokot counties, and 180 is the number of learners at Sangak Primary School who are boarders. Let's move on and take a look at page 12. Counties look to Ruto for 415 billion shillings share. The bill provides for equitable division of revenue raised nationally between national and county governments. Mediation team initially struggled to reach consensus with both sides. That story is beefed up for you on page 12. Now, 32 is the number of senators who voted in favor of the mediated version of the division of revenue bill. You want to catch up with that story on page 12. Let's move on and take a look at page 14. Self-taught web developer defies disability to fly Kenya's flag high. He has a dream of opening digital skills center for the youth and persons with disabilities. Peter Ongaro, who was struck by polio, represents the country in global competitions for persons with disabilities. You want to catch up with that story on page 14. Let's move on and take a look at the expert opinion. The state must urgently dialogue with the people. As expected, the protests were met with heavy-handedness from the government that labeled the demonstrators as anarchists. You want to catch up with that story on page 16. Now, on powering SMEs this morning, making of a hospitality tech powerhouse. That is what is making the headlines on the article. You'll catch up with the copy of that inside the Daily Nation. Let's keep on with the expert opinion. Stop threats and investigate killings. When the nation is mourning another 16 or so youth gunned down last week, President Ruto and his mouthpieces come across as gloating. These are the sentiments of Macharia Gaidho, and all that is augmented for you on page 17. Now, let's move on and take a look at county news quick fast. In Nakuru County, court deals blow to state in 100 million shillings IDP land deal. Lands Minister ordered to personally present the title deed in court. Family members accuse Kin of selling their ancestral property using forged documents. The government may have lost nearly 100 million shillings in a controversial land deal meant to resettle victims of the 2007 post-election violence. This emerged in a case in which the Land and Environment Court in Nakuru reinstated a title deed after some family members contested the sale. Aggrieved family members are against the sale of their ancestral land for resettling internally displaced persons or IDPs. In Isiolo County, Guyo to face Senate over impeachment despite judge's order. Isiolo Governor Abdi Guyo will face senators in plenary next week as he battles to remain in office following his impeachment by the members of County Assembly last week. This comes as legal questions loom over the legitimacy of the proceedings. There is a court order declaring the impeachment by the County Assembly null and void. The Senate will hold a 3-day impeachment hearing from July 8th. Now, let's check on at page 22 in Kajiado County, wildlife corridor to offer safe passage for animals from Nairobi Park to Kapiti Plains. Dozens of wild animals from Nairobi National Park may soon have a safe way to cross the Namanga Highway to the Athi Kapiti Plains in Machakos County as the government plans a major wildlife migration corridor. The project seeks to open up vital dispersal areas for animals confined within the increasingly isolated Nairobi National Park, which faces mounting pressure from rapid infrastructure development and human settlements, escalating human-wildlife conflict. Now, Lamu pastoralists cry foul over livestock export snub. Exports to Oman have dwindled since initiative was launched in 2021. When Kenya launched livestock export to Oman via the 310 billion shillings Lamu port in October 2022, the move was hailed as a game changer for pastoralists. The initiative promised direct access to international markets and significant investment for herders across Lamu and neighboring pastoralist regions in northeastern Kenya. Nearly 3 years later, many say the promise remains unfulfilled and the dream is slipping away. That story is beefed up for you on page 22. Let's come back to the Metropolitan. Traders refuse to buy suspect scrap metal. Suspected goons allegedly selling scrap metal believed to have been looted from the city's CBD turned violent after traders refused to buy the items. A trader at the Kayaba bus stop says, and I quote, "Scrap metal dealers at Kayaba refused to buy the items, which made the goons angry. They turned to mugging and robbing people of their money and phones." Now, also still in the Metropolitan, state accused of funding youth-police enmity. The enmity between police and the youth is being created by the government through use of goons, a youth leader has said. Young Aspirants Movement chairperson Austin Pitangui yesterday said the use of goons is a sign of a government fearing its own people. He claimed that the number of deaths during the protests reported by the police was lower than the actual number. That story is beefed up for you on page 22. Now, let's move on and take a look at the international scene. Quest for truce. Israel steps up Gaza bombing ahead of White House talks on a ceasefire. At least 38 people were killed in Israeli strikes, Hamas health authorities say. Netanyahu aide heads to Washington for possible wider regional diplomatic deals. Palestinians in northern Gaza reported one of the worst nights of Israeli bombardment in weeks after the military issued mass evacuation orders on Monday, while Israeli officials were due in Washington for a new ceasefire push by the Trump administration. Briefly, in Yaoundé, Cameroon, polls Second beer ally eyeing top seat. The Cameroon's tourism minister, Bello Buba Maigari, has accepted his party's nomination to seek the presidency in an expected October election, with long-serving President Paul Biya yet to announce whether he plans to run for re-election. Briefly in Dar es Salaam, 38 killed after two buses collide and catch fire. At least 38 people were killed and 28 others injured on Saturday night when two buses collided head-on and burst into flames in Moshi district in Tanzania's northern region of Kilimanjaro. Kilimanjaro Regional Commissioner Nurdin Babu told Shinhua in a phone interview on Sunday that the victims included members of the same family who were traveling to attend a wedding in the Moshi municipality. Now, we shift gears and take a look at the business news. Kenya's import bill drops for first time in 5 years. The 882 billion goods were shipped in during the first 4 months. The cutback to COVID-19 pandemic levels was largely due to low spending on fuel. The key figure stands at 3.63% reduction in imports compared to first 4 months of 2024. Briefly, in the banking sector, NBK fights to block 711 million shillings pay order. The National Bank of Kenya has escalated a legal fight in which it seeks to reverse a High Court order that it pays 711 million shillings to 8 customers for illegally selling their land after a botched sugar import deal. In the insurance sector, authority readies insurance agents training outline. The Insurance Regulatory Authority wants to establish a framework for mandatory continuous professional education for insurance agents in line with the newly enacted law. The regulator has opened the search for a consultant to develop a structured, competency-based framework for continuous professional development for at least 30 hours per year. And in the procurement sector this morning, dealers compete in state order for 295 trucks and buses. Dealers selling new buses and trucks will compete for a new contract from the National Treasury, which is seeking to procure 295 units of trucks and buses in the latest rounds of its motor vehicle leasing program that recently got additional 5.9 billion shillings. Treasury wants to hire the vehicles in 7 lots to be used by ministries, departments, and agencies. You'll catch up with that story on page 25. And now let's jump into the field and take a look at sports news. We start with golf. Lejirma, the man to watch in KAGC series. The national team captain extends lead after retaining Goldfield's trophy. He set his sights on the next leg of the amateur series at Limuru Open. That story is beefed up for you on page 30. And now let's come to football on page 31. One-way coach, unflinching assistance, how Gor's season fell. Lost to Nairobi United in FKF Cup final compound season to forget for Gor. Former coach Mihik was not seeing eye to eye with his assistants, but the damage had been done when he left the club for his native Croatia. You'll catch up with that on page 31. And lastly, on the cover page, 2024 CHAN, the contractor hands over Kasarani Stadium. Kenya to co-host 2024 Africa Nations Championship with Uganda and Tanzania. Sports CS Salim Vuria and Championships Local Organizing Committee are happy with the work done. Now, with that story of the CHAN 2024, we come to the tail end of the morning momentum this first day of July 2025. Thank you so much for keeping up with us. The program on air has been the morning momentum, of course, taking up the airwaves right here on the best youth television network in East and Central Africa. Keep watching Younib TV. See you tomorrow, same time at the studio. My name is Alphonce Ouma. See you tomorrow, same time, same place. Bye-bye for now.